In previous video, I show the all code structure of till now, and from now I will use context of React hook. But first start the server. Npm start. This is running on port 3001, and after starting the port, login, and I want some movement of my code like log handle logout is in app.js, but I want this functionality is handled in navbar itself. So first, from dashboard, home and profile, I want to remove the click button, sorry, handle logout button, and in navbar I want to place here. Navbar, I write function here. Okay, and from dashboard I simply remove all the things and save this way. A profile also want to remove, write this only, and dashboard, just wait a minute. And then dashboard here, profile I also change, and for user.id also. Okay. Now if I go not defined in app.js, so from here I also want to remove this properly. This is called the prop drilling. Means prop is passed from parent to child, so there is no need of handle logout. And in navbar I navigate, I import the use navigation, navigate, not okay, yes, this one, navi, navigate, use navigate. This is come from React router DOM, and if I save, handle logout is not defined because yeah. Okay, I check all is working fine, but the styling is effect. So first I copy the style, paste in home.js navbar. So styling is same for all, and for this in navbar I put all the things, all the navbar inside a div. So flex styling is applied on this div and this one, which I use here, justify content space between. So if you can see, now it's working fine. Now it's time to use context hook. So for that I will make a folder and name as compo and a not context, and inside context I make another component, and the name of the component is user context.js file. Extension I use .js. You can use JSX also as your wish, but I love the JavaScript, so I'm stick with JS extension. I also want to export this user provider robtr provider, and here this is the anonymous error function, and here I use this string which I pass children. First I use a state, and I use let keyword user. And one more thing is to mention that if you use here let, then you can't use export is used for const only. This is the set user, and this is a state, and here I write the comment that this state is passed globally to all component, means whatever the value inside this state I want to use in all component. So this state act as a this state has a some key value pair, means object, and first key is logged in, means I check is the user is logged or not, and if logged then I get all the information from the local storage which I set in local storage when the user is logged in, set all the details. But here I change some that I only change that I only want to save is logged in is as a boolean value, means true or false. If logged then true, otherwise false. And the second one is if you copy whole in next line from keyword, then you can simply use window shift and D, window plus shift plus D. I'm using Mac and my keyboard is of Dell, so I can use this. If you are if you use Mac keyboard, then you can use at the place of window you can use command. So this is the value, and this one is current user ID. I want to also get the current user ID, so I can add the details on behalf of user ID. I write another function user details, fetch user details. This is a async, so I write as an error function. You can't write here async, and wait, there is some issues. If you're using async here, then you can face some issue. So simply write another function inside this one, and here I check first at user, this user, and inside this user is there is a key that is logged in. I check that is true, and current ID. If both the conditions satisfy, means user is logged in and the user has some ID, then I write a logic and inside the try catch, and here I in catch I also console some error. If I found something wrong, then simply I want to console that an error occurred. And if you want to use plus sign, otherwise you can also stick with comma, because in JS both are valid. And first I send a request to the server, so I copy the code from login, because I want only these things. So here you can paste the code which you copied from login component. Okay, then here I want the detail on behalf of ID, so I pass, in place of email I use ID. You can leave it as it is. Then, and this ID is come from where? From user dot, and this one. Okay, current user ID I got, and after that I want to execute run the function run. Use effect is behave like a life cycle in class component. You can use component by 4 ways. First way is that if you leave as an empty array, then it run when your component is loaded, when you reload the page, when you navigate. So fetch user details. This one is run when the component is whenever the component load, then this function is executed. Or use effect is run, and inside the use effect I pass this function. I write another use effect, and I want to run this use effect when this user is logged in value changed. User logged in change. Simply again I call this function. Okay, and this whole code is act like a private one. So I want to display only which I return inside this function. So user context, and not write user context. So first, before export const user provider, you write const user context and called create context from React, and first I defined as undefined. You can keep as a null or undefined according to you what you want to. I want something like undefined. Null is also valid. And now I return user context dot provider here, and as a value I pass globally here as an object. So I use double braces, and I want to this user and set user be present as a global, and here inside children is also available. And now export only this use user return use context and user context. So you can use by this value variable use user. So first I log out the value, and if I inspect it as a memory, and first user provider, still this is not available globally. So first Here I wrap user provider in app.js. Now this user and set user is available in our place. So first, before export, import Axios and the base URL. I can check base URL and Axios is import. If I save, there is no error. And login, there is no change because when I save the information in local storage, then this code is work same. There is no need to change here. And after app.js, I change in login.js. There is a change here. So first, below the navigate, I import user and set user from where? Use user. Okay. Now you can use this use user. You call the context here in login.js component. Now if the user is login after checking the email, here local storage, here is the code. Okay, first I want to write bracket here, this is here, and then this one. And one thing, I want to use local storage above the navigate, because first I want to store the value in local storage, then navigate. And here you can write your code. First take a variable new user, and here first and just as simply as it is code, as it is all the user value. So I use a spread operator, and now add this one is logged in as a true, and for second current user ID I got from data 0, then ID, because you get value from here response data, then this is come as an array, and from array I want ID. Right, for validation for safer side I use question mark then dot. So first, if the null values, if the value has if this ID has some values, then it right, and in case of null it don't give any error. Okay, if I log in from test 6, and you can check in memory local storage, but here you can see that no value is stored inside. So before that you can also set user and in local storage also. So in user you get is logged and current, and in local storage also. First I log out, then again login, but still okay. Here you can check is current user ID and is logged in. Current user ID and is logged in, actually true and one value. Okay, because it want value from some arrays, but In local storage there is only two values. So this is the array in facing in profile.js. To prevent this array, just I want to change in home. In home, I also call, now this code is not useful. I can comment them first, because this values come from now state. All the values come from user state. Means by use context, use user, and from, and this effect, use effect is run only when the user value has changed. Okay, so this user has some values, and you can here after if the current user ID has some values, then I run here I write a condition that if user logged in and user current ID some values, then I simply run this code, and from there I get the data. But after getting the data, one more thing is required that I missed it. After getting response and get the value, get all the details in data variable, now I simply set the user with the previous state, and with new one I simply destructure previous user by spread operator, and I add new key as a current user details. So now if you add this code, then you can simply in local storage only you save only these two value, but in your state you have three key value pair is logged in, current user ID, and current user details. So if now in home, if I get the user, then user current user details, and then ID, and here you pass in a navbar. In dashboard you can also use this. So this code is not useful for now, so I can just comment it same as home, and now call const user from where, use user from context, and I also want to execute when the user value has changed, and I just want to copy from here these two one, and for email and for username, now the values come this way. First log out, test 1 2 3 4 5 6. You can check here that something is not working. Log user, okay, console is logged in true and user detail is undefined. One, two, three, four, five, six. There is still means there is some issue. App dot user provider. Okay, in context user context simply pass children, then user state first, current user id. Okay, is there is machine here? Here all thing is right. Current user id. If I console here, from context, and I want to console user, and you can check that the values. Okay, now value is present here. You can check it. So there is something, I think there is cache issue. 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, now fine. You can check the values here, and from context you can check here is logged in. This is come from in dashboard. So you can check here that dashboard. You can check here that there is a 3 key: current user detail, current user id is logged in, but in local storage there is only 2 values: current user id and is logged in. So its code is working fine. And now for home completed, dashboard completed. If you navigate from home to profile, then you can check here that this user id is coming in url because of this code, home, from this code. And for dashboard you can also change here, because the value is coming from this user, then current user details from user state, and then id. And now it's time for profile section. Profile, it get error from includes, because they get value from local storage. So there is some changes, there is some change here. Nav list error status fine. Then after navigate again, I import user context for user and set user, because I want to call and also set in user. So I call both user and set user from this context. Here you can check that I simply provide user and set user value to the provider. From that I can get the value, and after this is the set state, this code is as it is. And after, there is one more thing I want to add, that this default value I want outside of the function. So I can write here. You can write anywhere, but one thing is important, and this value is before when you call this variable. Okay, this value default data, and then in submit detail param here. Now this code is changed. there is no need of this two line. No, I can simply change. Again I want copy from here, from login, and then paste. New user has new user, but this user I want only details, user details, so not whole code I want to write. I want only current user detail, not these two one. So for that I simply spread this detail, and this logged in, there is no need of this code also. And one thing only, in place of current user ID I just want current user detail. I got the detail from response, then there's a key that data. So I get the response and passed as a key to the key current user details, and then after I simply set the old details with previous state and destructure the default data which I use outside of the function, this one. If any value which is present inside this key and value pair, then simply I write as it is, and then after I concatenate with newer value, or write in place of newer value. Now this value is set, and after that here I can use set the user details default data, then from user I just want current user detail, and in use effect there is no need of all this one. I simply call this function, and this function is executed when this component is load. So this use effect is run at that time, and I make another use effect, not event, user not use effect, and this use effect I want to execute at that time when this is our function, when user detail is changed. And again here just I want this set user detail, then here I want to need to change that keyword state, and there simply destructure the default data and user current user details. I think my code work fine. Previous state is not defined. Where 82. Okay, this I think this I write this in a wrong way. Set user this remove the code here. Then there is only one error, 8219. 8219 from here. Okay, this is not equal to this function here. Okay, user has the values. Now you can change all the inputs here with the this one, user current user details. So I can copy this one, and in all input field, first in place of email I get the value from this. Right, so test then 1 2 3 4 5 6 value. Now you can check here at the value user test email. Now here you can check that I'm writing. I can write inside input field. But I want the value from this, from the state, and user detail. Okay, there is a now this value is coming from user detail, but still you get the value because of this line of code, user detail here. But this use effect is run when your component is load. But if you save some data, like if you type just new space new, and if I save, and if you navigate and then come, and still it's work. Okay, you can, I think this code is also worked. And if I change drop down here, drop down is not changed. So if I check mobile username, last name, select language here because of this. So simply what you can do, simply you can pass as or. If the value, then get the value, otherwise empty one. Then save. Here you can check the Python is changed because of in language you can see language is Python. And if I can change as PHP and then submit, PHP is updated here. And if I navigate any other, then again come on profile, then check PHP is still here. And if I refresh the page, then you can see here you can't get any value. So to prevent this, first I convert user in place of user detail. I write the user, then current user detail. First name, last name, mobile number, then language, and for hobbies, for gender, for male and for female, for DOB, and for last bio. But still you can check that value is not come. Now if I again login, values come fine, profile also look fine for me. But after refresh, I think current user detail is the value of current, yes. From context, the value of current user detail is missed. So to prevent the current user detail in user context state, you need something. And what is this? User context. Set user. First I remove the handler logout. There is no need of handler logout because I simply remove from parent app dot. So in dashboard and profile there is no need. There is no need of prop. Now come to profile. List. Param navigate user. I call users from where? API context. I think there is an issue. API context. Okay, first remove this one from context because I write I make this file inside the API, but I want inside the context folder, not in API. So I remove the user context from API to context. Okay, user context, and then this user detail, then default data, update data for submitting data. After submit, I get the response from ID, then user detail. I set the user details. It's worked for me fine because it updates the detail, and after updating I get the response. So before setting I make an object new user, and here I spread current user details. First I want to check that what the response I have. Console.log sub mit submit response, then data. After refreshing all the state, so the issue is that you can check here. The issue is that you can check here. If I refresh, the value is gone and the current user ID value is changed with true. And I can show you again what the actual reason for this error is. That I write first valid password. Other thing is test, and then password 12345 6. Okay, now I can log in. Here you can check that current user ID is 1, but if I refresh, then check the current user ID is changed with true. Now simply I want get I want current user ID value from the previous one. Okay, if I refresh, then you can check value still remain same, but you can check that there is a error with the control input to be controlled. User context. First I remove the all console. I leave it this console in dashboard. An error in profile. So the error is from this user details which I use here. So change all the user details, then user current details with simply user detail, because now the value is coming from your user detail, and for current user dot current user detail, first time the value is null. Due to this it gives error to me, and if I can refresh, then there you can see that there is no error. And if I update the value, now I'm able to update the value of input field last name, and I change there a total. Okay, and react. Now for hobbies I just want one mail. Okay, change the date, updated, change this female for check the radio button. Now if I update, it's working fine. And if I go home and then come, the value remains same, means working fine. If I refresh, okay, now your code is working. And log out. Now I add another user, test1, with email test1, and password 122345 6. Register. Remove. Okay, I have two user, and if I log in with user 1, I can go to update mail, first time is null, fine. Okay, generating. Okay, if I save, get update, yes, no mail. If I come again, then it is selected JavaScript, write anything, and if you check update here, fine. Okay, now it's working fine, and I want to just delete this user, so deleted. Yeah, it's working fine. Thank you. This API is same, only base URL, then index. There is no change in index.js. For app.js, logout handler is moved in navbar, and other than that there is no change. So helper is also for same. I can put the index and helper, and first go to navbar. Now this handle logout is here, and for all the navbar I write a div, and then inside this div I write all the navbar. And after that div I add the handle logout button, and from dashboard, home and profile I remove the button here, and navbar is right inside the nav tag. Okay, then for first I will show first context, then after navbar and all the things. In user context I write first user context, and at first it defines as undefined, and then export user provider. Here I initialize state for user and set user, and define is logged in and current user ID. And how I get from local storage. When user logged, then I set, and this user effect is globally available and run according to this effect. So first I define this, then write a function. Here I write logic in try and catch block, and execute use effect code, then return provider and export use user. This user context has finished. Now I open all one by one. First login. This code is same. Here I call user set user from this context, user context, and then inside login user. This is same for validation in try catch block. This is also same. There is no change. This is the validation if the response get or not. This validation for password, and all thing is good. Then simply set the all details in context by calling the set user. First I make a object, and then pass the object in set user and save the detail in local storage and navigate. So this is the code for login.js. You can check. If you miss anything, then you can write from here. Now code for register. There is a no change in register.js file, but still I want to show. This is the function for ref and state. This is the handle for registering the user. I get from data by uncontrolled behavior. Here I check. Then first define by making object. Check the email. If the response less than 0, then simply error. Otherwise post the data. If after posting status is 200, then success, otherwise something wrong. After submitting the form, after everything is success, then simply empty the form. This is the try catch block, and this is the form. This is for messaging, print the message. From here I use useref for username, email, password, and the submit button. Now it's time for home.js file. I remove the extra comment from here so you can easily visualize. This is the home.js file for login. I'll show you now home dashboard. I remove the extra comment so you can easily visualize by less line of code. Okay, this is the code here. First I get by user, use context, then I use this is execute when some values inside user change, and here is the change in nav list, and get the value from context. Okay, there is no extra code here. Save, move to home, dashboard is completed. Now it's time for profile. This is the last one. Okay, first this code is same till now. Here is same, this one line is added in this use context video. I call the use user context, and after calling this one is same as previous one. Here this one is also, and default data is I remove from here. Yeah, get user local from local. I simply define as a global here, global for this function. And submit handler, first prevent, this one is same for previous one. Then here I get the email ID, sorry, user by default of by the ID. I get the all user detail with the help of ID, user ID, and this ID is come from URL. And this is the validation part. Remove this one, remove console. Okay, after this line is added here. First make object and call the context and the current user detail only. I call this only this part, not all to one. Then set the user detail in set user. Remove this one. Okay, execute use effect, execute this function. Here I set the with previous data and the current data. Remove console from here also, and I write two use effect. First is effect is execute only when this component is load, and other one if user is context use context have some values change inside. For delete, this code is same for delete. Get the ID from URL. And for form, you can check that this detail username is come from user detail. First I write uh, I want the values from user dot user current user detail, but there are some issues inside this when I use this, so simply convert user details and you get the email from user detail, all the values from the user details. So first name, last name, mobile number, then language. Check here also if you unable to change the value or save the value from drop down, then maybe issues come from here. And for control and uncontrolled behavior, if you found error in console, browser console. Okay, then for hobbies, this is the lengthier one, you can write with precisely. For gender, for male, and this one is for female. DOB, and for bio. I think whole code is finished now. Thank you.